The chandelier light spilled across the marble floor like liquid gold, reflecting polished shoes, designer heels, and the effortless confidence of the wealthy. Laughter echoed through the grand hotel lobby, warm, careless, untouched by struggle. And then, the room shifted. At the entrance stood two figures who didn't belong to this glittering world. An old man, his skin weathered by years under the sun, held a worn leather suitcase. His hat was frayed, his clothes simple but clean. Beside him stood a frail woman wrapped in a thin, faded scarf, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched her bag. They looked tired, not just from travel, but from life itself. People noticed. Some stared. Some smirked. And before the couple could even speak, the hotel manager leaned forward over the desk, his lips curling into a mocking smile. "Pay for the cheapest room, and don't stay long," he said loudly. "People like you don't belong here." A few staff members laughed. The words cut deeper than any blade. The woman lowered her head, her shoulders shaking with quiet shame. But the old man didn't move. He didn't flinch. His grip on the suitcase tightened, and his eyes locked onto the manager with calm, unshakable strength. And suddenly, the noise in the lobby began to fade. "Before we go further, let me ask you something. Do you believe kindness still matters in this world? Do you believe standing up for dignity can change hearts? If yes, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Kindness Warriors, and share this story with someone who needs a reminder that humanity still exists. Because what happened next, no one in that lobby would ever forget. The old man's name was Elias. For over 50 years, he had worked the land. From sunrise to sunset, his hands shaped the soil, grew food, and fed families he would never meet. His back carried the weight of seasons. His hands carried the scars of survival. Beside him, his wife Ruth had stood through it all, raising children, stretching every meal, enduring every storm life threw at them. They weren't here for luxury. They had sold their small farm, everything they had left, just to come to the city for a medical appointment Ruth desperately needed. One night. That's all they asked for. Just one place to rest. But to the people in that lobby, they were nothing. Ruth whispered softly, "Elias, maybe we should go." But Elias gently placed his hand over hers. And then, he spoke. "Son," he said calmly, his voice steady but powerful, "I didn't come here to beg. I came here after giving my life feeding people like you." The room went silent. "This suitcase you laugh at," he continued, placing it on the desk, "once carried the tools that fed entire towns. Every grain, every fruit, every harvest, came from hands like mine." The manager's smile faded. Guests stopped moving. "I may wear old clothes," Elias said, "but every thread carries honest work. Every scar on my hands tells a story of survival." He paused. "And if you see me as cheap, then remember this, cheap doesn't mean worthless." The silence grew heavier. "I have lived a life richer than anything in this building." No one laughed now. No one spoke. Elias slowly opened his suitcase and pulled out an old ledger. He placed it firmly on the counter. The sound echoed across the marble floor. Inside were records, decades of them. Receipts. Names. Deliveries. "This hotel," Elias said quietly, "was once supplied by my farm." A ripple of shock spread through the room. "The food served in your finest halls came from my fields." The realization hit hard. The same hands they mocked had fed them for years. A woman behind the desk lowered her gaze. A guest shifted uncomfortably. And then, someone started clapping. Soft at first. Then louder. One by one, people joined in until the lobby filled with applause, not for wealth, not for status, but for dignity. The manager's face turned pale. I'm sorry, sir," he stammered. "Please, take our best suite. No charge." But Elias shook his head. "We don't want charity," he said gently. "Only respect." Those words landed heavier than anything before. Because this wasn't about a room. It was about worth. It was about dignity. It was about remembering that a person's value isn't measured by clothes, money, or appearances, but by the life they've lived and the strength they carry. Moments later, Elias and Ruth were handed their keys. No laughter. No mockery. Only silence and respect. As they walked toward the elevator, Ruth held onto Elias's arm, her eyes shining, not with shame this time, but with pride. And behind them, a room full of strangers stood quietly, changed. Because sometimes, the poorest-looking hands carry the richest stories. And sometimes, all it takes is one voice to silence an entire room. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Warriors. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you were standing in that lobby?